David Shearer.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Sir, there is a housing crisis. There is a housing crisis. There is a housing crisis. And I say it 3 times because this government says there's no housing crisis, yet they have allocated 3 ministers to this housing crisis. And the way it's going, sir, they'll need to allocate another 3 because it's going badly. It's going really badly, sir. Today we had the really embarrassing spectacle of Paula Bennett having to apologise about a smear campaign out of her office against Huamoana Dennis in Tapuia Marae, a man who has led the charge on homelessness. That Paula Bennett, after 3 weeks of this marae functioning, fled through the other day, went through, and without barely stopping to meet anybody, she should be thanking Tapuia Marae, not trying to put them in their place and smear them. But that was a long list of problems. But yesterday as well, Paula Bennett gets asked about the housing problem and some of the temporary mobile housing that's coming up, the prefabs. She said she knows nothing about it. They said, well, Mr Key just talked about it. Oh, she said, oh yes, that's right, they'll be ready in April. This government is all over the place, They're sending people down to the provinces with $5,000 in their pockets because they can't put them into houses in Auckland. Sir, they're putting people in motels and then asking them for the money for it. These are beneficiaries who have done nothing wrong except failed under this government's policy, and they've been put in motels and then asked to pay that money back. It is a disgrace, sir. Then that's only just one housing minister. The second housing minister, sir, is Nick Smith. And do you believe him? Do you believe him? Homelessness, he says, is a figment of people's imaginations. Do you believe this? Sir, he tells us about consents, but everybody knows that consents don't keep out the rain. Sir, you can't shelter under a consent, you want a home. He also says that houses are more affordable under National. The average house has gone up by $500,000 under Nick Smith. $500,000. In Auckland, it's heading towards $1 million average. $1 million. Who can get into $1 million house? Who can get into $1 million house? It has decimated the dream of young New Zealanders wanting to buy a house, sir. It is disgraceful. He is a mistake of a minister, sir. It is an appalling legacy that this minister is leaving for the people of New Zealand. And Housing Minister number 3, being Bill English, the economic so-called guru of New Zealand, his credentials are taking a dent. He's saying that speculators are no problem, yet we know that 46% of all houses bought and sold in Auckland are done both through speculators. We have now racked up $500 billion level of debt in New Zealand, $500 billion. That is beyond anything we've ever seen before. 50 years under Muldoon, my God, this is nothing compared to that. We've got $90 billion of debt under this government, and we are now being fuelled by credit. And just to tell you how out of touch this government is, we have the banks finally saying, no, we're not going to lend to foreigners. This is Labor Party policy, I have you know. We should not be lending to foreigners. But that government has never had the intestinal fortitude to even be able to stop foreigners treating our housing market like they do the New York Stock Exchange, sir, selling pork bellies on the New York Stock Exchange. That's exactly what they're doing here in New Zealand with our housing market. Sir, it's a disgrace. This government has 3 housing ministers to do a job, and none of them have been able to do anything that can give us any hope.
Mr Speaker.